Okay, we have this tag next. There's a couple of different elements involved in this one, but it uses the thin chipboard tag and it uses the round MDF circle that comes with the kit. So first of all, we're going to start on this side, which is like a verdigris embossing. And what I've done is I've just given the tag a coating of black acrylic paint, and that's Fresco finish little black dress. Okay, so now we're going to do the embossing, and we're using a stencil and the paper artsy grunge paste. So we just lay the stencil. Obviously I'll do it in two because it's not big enough. Really down to my last bits of grunge paste here. Just run it through the stencil. So lift that up, and then I need to heat set it just to dry it. One thing you need to know about grunge paste, if you do heat set it, it will puff up a little bit. And then we'll do the other side. So just get my last little slither of paste in here. It hasn't come out terribly clear, but that won't matter because of the techniques we're putting on top. It's just about a texture more than anything. Probably because there's not much left in the pot. Okay, there we go. And then we dry that side as well. And now we want to paint it all in black. So the reason I put the black down first was it would make it easier then to paint the second time, because getting in all those little cracks and crevices of the embossing powder, embossing would have been really awkward, so this saves a job. And then we're going to give that a dry. If there are any little bits that you miss, if you just get a bit with a little brush or your finger, just touch them in. Oops, never mind. Right, so we've got it to this stage. So now we want to give it that verdigris look. I'll just get my mat out for this, because what we're going to do is use a little bit of turquoise and a little bit of pumpkin soup. And we're going to do some washes over the whole thing. Just going to use a spritzer bottle just to add some water to the two colours. And then just add some watery layers. Let it puddle and it'll create line, it'll build up in the lower areas. So we want heavier areas and lighter areas of colour. It's got to be patchy, it's not meant to be perfect. And then you can see as it dries, it puddles in the recesses. So this is our first layer. Clean the brush. And then, let's clean it better than that. And then we'll have our second layer. And this time I'm using the pumpkin soup and in slightly different areas. And even with my fingers, just adding some extra, but just watery patches of area. Some of them mixed. Just making sure if it's really watery, it will fall down in the cracks, and that's what we want. So we're building up extra layers. And then we'll give that a dry. And then if there's any areas you're not happy with, you can just go over again with either one or the other colour. There's a little bit that's still wet. Just to finish this off, just some treasure copper, gilding wax, to add a verdigris finish to it. And if you can see what I do, I just use the warmth of my finger just to pick some up rather than scoop loads out, because you just want the faintest of layers on top, because you just want it to catch on the top. You don't want it to be all over. If you can see, I'm very, very gently rubbing, and I'm practically getting nearly the whole thing covered just with that one finger. Okay, a bit more. You can see I start on the edges and then work in, because I can control that a bit more, a bit like when you're using inks. You start on the edge and then work in, because you don't want a big blob in the middle of your work. I would normally let this dry just for a few minutes and then buff it up with a cloth, and then you get that effect. This is worn a little bit. I quite like the fact that it wears down a little bit, especially if people are touching it, it tends to wear off. So that's it, brand new. I haven't polished it down yet. It does make a difference once it's been polished down. Okay, I'm happy with that finish now, and all I did is with a soft cloth just buffed that up, so I've got some real texture going on there now, and it really looks like a verdigris finish. So now we're going to make a start on this side. Now obviously, because of all the work I've been doing, I do need to give this another coat of black, but it's this, I'm glad I showed you this, because even if you think, oh no, it's a disaster, it's not. It's just re-go over it again. That's the beauty of paint. You can just cover up everything. So black is obviously an opaque, so it covers up lovely. And very easily as well. Black is the easiest colour to cover up. So while that's, I've partly dry it, but while that is drying completely, I want to show you, as I get that to finish drying, I'll put that to one side. I wanted to show you the MDF circle that comes in the kit. And what I've done is I've painted it with a couple layers of the Fresco finish in chalk. And then what I've done is, to give it a really smooth surface, I've sanded down the surface with a sanding block. And then I've sanded it down with a sanding block to give me a really lovely smooth surface, which is perfect for stamping. So we're going to be using the stamp from this set. It's a Limperella Paper Artsy set, LPC 031. So I'll just grab that one. And put it on the block. And then you can see, you can just about get it on there. There's some edges, but we're going to fill those in anyway. Personally, I think the best way to do this one is actually flat. Make sure you've got a good ink pad with lots of ink in it. This one is a black VersaFine. Actually, I'll put it straight on the table because it might stick a bit. Give me a chance to, if it cannot move about so much. Oh, no, it still doesn't. A little bit of water will help it stick. There we go. That's what we wanted. So the easiest way to get this circle, oh look at that. The easiest way to get the circle stamped up, good job I'm doing the edges, is to bring it down onto it. So if you get it roughly where you want it, and then push down, making sure you clean your fingers because I did touch the ink. Doesn't really matter on the back because it's going to be glued on. Just as well really. Push it down nice and firmly in all areas, not just the centre. Then when you lift it up, hopefully you've got a really good image. Now those two edges, just to make them up, I will use that edge there and just fill it in. If you can see what I've done there, I'll do the same on the other side, but I need a little bit more ink. And we'll fill in the other side. So there we go. It doesn't even look like it wasn't part of it. So quickly wipe that down because it's a very detailed stamp and you don't want ink to be settling in the details. Like I said, I love to clean my stamps. I just think it's really worth, if you're going to spend a lot of money on stamps, it's worth cleaning them. There we go. And now we're getting all mucky. So now that is VersaFine ink, and when you stamp VersaFine onto paint, you do need to heat set it. So I just need to give that a blast. Right, it's going to be hot, so I shall put it to one side. And then we'll quickly do the embossing on the back. You can see there's 2 lines of gold embossing powder. For that, it's a similar stamp set, but I just really like that border. So we're going to use that one. And we're going to go top and bottom and use gold embossing powder. So using the Versamark again, just creating 2 borders, and I'm going to do them turning one this way up and then turning the block and doing the other one the other way up. Okay, just need to put the embossing powder on. And then heat set it and turn the embossing powder shiny. There we go. So there's the embossing, and then obviously this will sit on top. I actually like it in the black and white, but we'll go with colour because that's what we've done before. So just a case now of using some pencil colours to colour the designing, and literally you could just pretty much go with any colour you want. Right, so all I've done is I've finished off painting her in and adding water to it, and there's just 2 more things I need to do now to finish her off. Firstly, I want to put a black ink around the edge just to frame it. So I'm going to use black VersaFine because I know it will give a nice solid finish. So I'm just going to use a piece of sponge. Oops. And just go all the way around the edge. And obviously with VersaFine I can heat set it so I know it will stay in place. It does 2 jobs. It edges the sides, but it also gives a nice frame to the front. Just make sure I've done that all around. If you can see now, it's framed it nicely. So I'll just heat set that, and then the last job. Okay, so just check that it isn't going to come off. Yeah, that's fine. And so the very last thing, if you see on this one, it's got a gloss glaze. So that's the very last thing we do. It's the Fresco finish gloss glaze, and just put it on with a sponge. The reason I do that is I've used watercolour pencil underneath, and to avoid disrupting it too much, I'm putting it on with a sponge. So just let that seep in. Might need a block. So just with the sponge sponging on the gloss. The first layer is the most difficult, but once you've got that layer down, you won't dislodge any paint that you've done afterwards, because that layer is holding it all in. So another layer, sponging it on. And there we go, just needs to be stuck down onto our tag. So that's another one finished. I think I did 3 layers on this one, so when that dries I'll add an extra layer, but you can see it really brings the colours out. So that's our next tag done.